I'm back. I know it's been a long time. And some of you maybe haven't even noticed that I've been gone for 3 weeks. I hate to say this, but I would assume you haven't noticed. And it's not that I am down on myself or anything, but I just don't think the world revolves around me. And I think that you all have schedules and you're probably busy and watching other videos and you probably didn't even notice. But yes, I've been gone for 3 weeks. 3.5 weeks. It's been a while. I wanted to tell you where I've been and finish up with my May book reviews towards the end of June. I know. So basically where we left off was I had told you I was going to do 1 or 3 books at a time with my reviews because I felt like my book reviews or wrap-ups were too long. So many of you said that you don't mind my videos being long and you actually like long videos that I've decided not to worry about the length of my videos. I'm just going to do what I feel like doing and not worry about it. I mean, I'm just going to have fun with it, right? This is a page that I'm doing for fun. It's not like I'm getting paid to do this. It's not like this is my day job, right? So what I'll probably do is do a wrap up and do a mid-month check-in. So every 2 weeks, do a book review. And if I really love a book and I want to really concentrate on the book and talk a lot about it, then I'll do a video just on that one book. I'm sorry to keep changing it on you, but I really thought that you wanted really short videos. I had no idea that so many people would comment that they like the longer videos and don't really want shorter videos from me. So I guess if you like shorter videos and you're watching this, maybe watch my videos in chunks. Sorry. As far as where I have been, it's been a little bit weird. So I started reading The Shining, and it's part of the Thrill a Month book club that AJ Dunn has. And I got to, I think it was chapter 18. And as you know, I'm on a weight loss journey that I've got a weight loss specialist doctor that I'm working with. And good news, he had me go off of some medication, which is great. That's part of why I'm doing all this, is so I can go off of all these medications that I've been on because of my weight. When I went off of this medication, and I didn't realize at first that that's what it was, but I got really kind of dizzy and foggy brained. And it took me a week to get through one chapter of The Shining. And I thought there was just something weird going on. It didn't occur to me that it was my brain going off of a medication that I'd been on for years. I don't know why it didn't occur to me, but it didn't. Then, right, and I kept thinking, oh, I have allergies. I think I mentioned that to you guys. Right after my birthday, that Sunday, I got sick with, I didn't know what at the time, but I just got sick. It felt like a sinus infection with migraines. And I had a mild temperature. And it kept coming back, the temperature. And then all of a sudden, I got really sick with something that was in my lungs. My lungs were burning and I was coughing up all this stuff. And then my temperature went away. And I finally went to go to the doctor. I stayed home for, it was 7 or 8 days. And I had to go to the doctor anyway for the weight loss stuff. I found out that I had just one of the many viruses that goes around, and it got stuck in my lungs and I got bronchitis. And that was so much worse than whatever the virus that I had was. It wasn't the big C, thank God. So I'm okay. It wasn't anything serious, but the bronchitis really kind of knocked me on my butt. And I'm finally feeling a little bit more human again now. So here I am, but I took a real break from everything. Both YouTube pages, social media in general, and yeah. So here I am. I have been reading again. quite a bit, but for a little while there, I wasn't reading a whole lot. But it just felt like this really long, drawn out thing. But I did want to just wrap up everything that I didn't tell you about the end of May with reading. One book that I read was a children's book that my friend Kristen sent me. It was one of my housewarming gifts, and it's called Owl at Home. And this was just the cutest book I think I've ever read. It's about this owl, and it's, well, obviously, and it's a day in this owl's life. I think it's a must read after a bad day, or it would be a good book to read to a child that you love reading to. I kind of feel like the owl was based on a grandparent of the author, maybe. The owl was just kind of grouchy, but cute and very set in their ways. But the owl was adorable. The story was adorable. I'm definitely going to keep this book and read it when I'm in a bad mood. I gave it 4 stars. I'm going to be looking at my notes for this one. Then I listened to His and Hers by Alice Feeney on audiobook. I didn't mention this to you, right? I don't think I did. I mean, things got really jumbled for me at the end of May. This I actually listened to closer to the beginning of May, but I never got a chance to tell you about it. I kind of had a mid-grade attachment to the characters of this book. I don't even know how to tell you what this book was about. I mean, I guess you could look at the synopsis, but it was kind of a weird book. It was all over the place. There wasn't a whole lot of depth to the characters. I would say that was kind of mid-grade as well. It was very intense, and I couldn't stop listening to it. Since I listened to audiobooks while I cleaned, my home was spotless by the time I was done with this book. It was very bone-chilling, but I do want to say this could be a very triggering book for some people. There was rape, molestation, and some trafficking kind of hints thrown in there. I mean, there was rape and molestation, but the trafficking, I think, could be a trigger for some people as well. And sadly, these are a part of our world. I think it might be easier to hear about some of it if you know about it going in. Sadly, there was something very impersonal and flat about the story. The outcome and the whodunit aspect was very shocking for me. I did think it was a very entertaining book, not in the sense that it was fun, because it was pretty dark, but just trying to figure out what was going on and who was behind the storyline. I give this story 4 stars. I did not think it was as good as Rock, Paper, Scissors. Then I read The Shining, which I think you probably know exactly what that book is about. I don't know if it was because I was sick when I read this book. It was a very long read for me. It took me well over 2 weeks to read it. I did enjoy the book. I didn't love it the way I did when I was a teenager and I read it. One of the underlying themes of this book with so many of the characters is how easy it is, or how easy distrust can eat away at us and our relationships with other people. And once it gets into a relationship, it can really just rot away at our relationship with someone and how we look at them. It really made me want to read Dr. Sleep, and reading this book made me not like the movie at all anymore. I feel like the movie wasn't based on the book at all. There was so much in the movie that wasn't in the book, and there was so much in the movie that was highlighted that to me was a very small part of the book. I also think the book was so much better than the movie. What else is new, right? But the book also, because it was right around my birthday, or during my birthday when I was reading it, and I got some birthday gift cards, it really inspired me to purchase some of my favorite Stephen King books from my, I don't want to say my youth, because I don't feel like I'm old, but I guess some young people would say I was old, so take that how you want. But from my younger years, I decided to get those books and reread them like I just did with this one. I ended up giving this book 4 stars. And it's not that it's not a good book. I mean, obviously, it's 4 stars, so I think it's good and I'm recommending it. I just don't love it. My heart doesn't leap when I think about it. I don't want to hug the book, or I don't feel like I can't wait to reread it. There's something about, there's a certain level of excitement that I have to feel about a book to give it 5 stars that I don't feel about this one, sadly. My friend Kristen that I just mentioned and we were going to read 100 Years of Solitude together, and we did not get very far before we both decided to DNF this book. And we both decided it was a DNF for now. So I don't know that I won't get back to it later, and I think she felt the same way. It just, for me, it just didn't feel right to me in this moment, in the sense that I felt like in one paragraph, it would jump from one moment in time to a different moment in time, or one place to another place, but not make that clear. And it started really grating on me a little bit. And I also felt it almost read like a textbook to me, and that I felt like it was the outline of something, not a story of something. I don't know if that makes sense. It sounds weird to me as I'm saying it, but that's how I felt when I was reading it. It just didn't feel, it didn't feel like a story. It didn't feel like the story was being told in the way that I needed it to be told to absorb it, or something. And I really was so excited to read this too. And I was very sad that I just wasn't feeling it. So I am DNFing it for now. I'm not going to get rid of it. I'm going to keep it and set it in a place. I've got a little section on my bookshelf that's a DNF for now. And I'm hoping that maybe it was just a mood I was in or something, and maybe at a later date I can pick it up and read it and feel differently about it. And if you've read this and you love it and you think, oh my gosh, Michelle, you're really missing out, you have to read this, let me know. The next 2 books that I want to talk to you, or actually the next 3 books, they're all audio books. It took me so long to go through the Stephen King book. There was so many audio books that I went through while I was reading Stephen King. The next one is called Windhall. It's about a journalist named Max Haley who is trying to solve a murder mystery from decades ago. It kind of reminded me of the Black Dahlia story. How it's a noir Hollywood murder mystery that still kind of plagues Hollywood today, all these decades later. It's kind of like that, except the actress that was killed was quite a bit more of a more popular actress who was in more than one movie at the time of her murder. Now, one of the things that I found a little bit fascinating about Max was he's not a very likable character. And I really like unlikable characters for some reason. He's very cocky, but he's very likable in the sense that he loves Philip Marlowe and Raymond Chandler, which that really gets me right away, especially since I just read my first Raymond Chandler book. And I thought it was funny though, his friends don't like him very much, this character. This was the author's first novel, and I thought for a first novel it was very good. I really enjoyed listening to this book. I really enjoyed the first 2/3 of this book, and I loved all of the nods to Raymond Chandler and all of the nods to vintage Hollywood. But the last third of the book really fell flat for me. I just didn't care for the ending and the way that it was wrapped up. It was almost too wrapped up with a bow, which sounds kind of strange, but if you read the book, you might know what I mean. I do still recommend it, though. I thought it was a good book, and it is the author's, sorry, that was Marty running by. It is the author's first book, so I want to be a little bit lenient with that. I do recommend, if you read this mystery, keep a list of characters, because there's a lot of characters in this book, and it is very hard to keep them separated in your mind. I had a really hard time with that because I didn't keep a cheat sheet, and I kept thinking, I have no idea who she's talking about right now. It kind of felt to me like the characters were all, for the most part, very negative, bad people. And I guess I just like to think there's a little bit more nice people or good people in the world than there were in this book. Like, it just almost felt a little too negative or dark for me. And I know here I am reading a murder mystery, but I just needed one of the characters at least to be a little bit nicer or a little bit more positive or something. I gave this book 4 stars. I'm going to read you a quick description of the next book. The book's called Crossroad by W.H. Cameron, and it says, on a desolate road in the Oregon high desert, an apprentice mortician stumbles upon a horrific car crash and into a vortex of treachery, long-buried secrets, and growing menace. That sounds amazing, right? I think I built it up too much in my head. The idea of what this book was going to be like as opposed to what it was like didn't match up for me. It was a slow burn book, which I love slow burn books, but this one was a little bit too slow burn even for me. If you like Jane Harper books, though, which I do, you might like this because it is very slow burn like that. But it just really dragged out, and it felt very predictable to me as the storyline unfolded. It does take place in a small town. We have an unreliable protagonist who was unlikable, which, you know, like I said, I love that. And she's got a very dry sense of humor, which I was all about. So that was probably my favorite part of the book, was the protagonist. I loved her unlikability and her dry sense of humor. I was really there for that. Especially a mortician with a dry sense of humor. Yes. Yes, please. There was a part of the storyline, I don't want to mention it because I'm very sensitive to spoilers. I don't want to give anything away. But there was a certain part of the storyline that I found very fascinating. And I kind of felt like, or I definitely felt like, that particular part of the storyline was untapped. The author really didn't go into it very much. And I was left feeling very disappointed. And I'm spoiled. I don't like not getting my way. So, because I felt like the storyline was predictable and it was so slow burn, I had to give it 2.5 stars. I just didn't enjoy it the way I wanted to. And it had so much potential, especially with a protagonist that was so unlikable, she was lovable. And the last book of May was a memoir called Inside Out by Demi Moore. If you watched my last monthly wrap-up, I had listened to Jessica Simpson's memoir, and I loved it so much. And I mentioned that I feel like she was just so vulnerable and raw, and I feel like Jessica is someone that I could be friends with in real life. I felt the opposite way about Demi Moore, and I hate to admit that, but I told you I would always be very honest with you when I started this channel. I don't want to be friends with Demi Moore after listening to her memoir, and I ended up DNFing it. I got so irritated with her about 2/3 of the way through. Demi Moore had a very difficult childhood that was riddled with abuse, and that is awful, and I'm very sad that she went through that. However, once she became an adult, she's really, in the book, the way that it was written, it came off like, and maybe this isn't the case, maybe it was just the way the book was written, but she kind of mentioned, well, she doesn't kind of, she mentions that she finds herself at 50 alone with her husband having just left her. Her daughters haven't spoken to her in years, and she's very alone, and she wonders why. But then she goes on to blame all of them for all of her problems. And then blames it all on the abuse that she went through. And I know so many people that have gone through similar types of abuse, and there's a lot of people that don't blame their childhoods on their problems and overcome it. And it's very hard to listen to someone turn it around and use it as a way to blame everyone else for their problems. The other thing that was frustrating to me was she started talking about the movies that she was in, Indecent Proposal and Striptease and Disclosure. She just talks about a number of movies where she had to get naked. But she says that she had to get naked. She was forced into it. She didn't want to do these roles. She says with Striptease, she had to do that movie because she had to feed her daughters. And look, no judgment. I don't care if she does the movie Striptease, or if she does Indecent Proposal, or any of the other movies that she did. But to say that she had to feed her daughters, not even 5 minutes later, she's talking about Bruce Willis, her husband at the time, and how he made $20 million on the movie he was making at the same time that she made Striptease. So I'm not really understanding why she had to make that movie to feed her daughters. I mean, $20 million is what he was making at the same time? That doesn't make sense to me. But she was blaming her. She said that she has body dysmorphia and an eating disorder, and she was blaming it on the directors of the movies where she had to get naked, and how she felt like it was their fault for putting her in these movies and making her do these scenes. And I'm just thinking, what? You agreed to do them. I mean, there's plenty of other movies that she was doing that weren't like that. She didn't get naked in Ghost, or A Few Good Men, or The Juror, or all kind, or maybe Nothing But Trouble. Brad, but looking at movies of hers for me in the background. But I mean, so I don't really. I started getting frustrated. It would be like if Madonna said she is so mad because she feels like she was objectified in the 90s. Right? Like that was what she was going for in the 90s, right? Like if you're an actress that's successful and popular, and you get to choose the movies that you're in, which at the time she certainly did, please don't then turn around and blame other people for the choices that you made. Like, I just don't think, so I started getting really irritated, right? Because I think that we all have responsibility and accountability and the decisions that we make. And I thought, wow, what? And I just started getting really frustrated with it. And then I started looking at the reviews because I started thinking, is it just me? And I started getting even more frustrated with some of the comments. What a disservice some of the... I don't even know if I should mention this, but some of the comments got under my skin so much that I just had to be done at that point. And what I mean is, this book was so much more inspiring to me than Michelle Obama's memoir. What? I'm done. What? Somebody who slept her way into the film industry is more motivational to you than Michelle Obama. Okay. All right. You know, I mean, I can't wrap my head around it. And I don't know. So anyway, and by the way, before you come at me, she talks about how that is how she got her first movie, is she slept her way into that movie. And the one after, and I think that does a disservice to young girls, which the person that said that book was more motivational to her than Michelle Obama's memoir. That was a young girl that was saying that, and it really pissed me off because whether you believe in Michelle Obama politically or not, I don't think she slept her way through her college education, and she is a very educated it really upset me, as you can tell. So I don't recommend that book, and she's not somebody that I have a lot of respect for after listening to her memoir. And it was not written very well, by the way. And she even had a ghostwriter helping her with that book. So that's all I have to say about that. So over the next few weeks, I'm going to be trying to get caught up with all my videos. I got pretty behind the last 3 weeks. I've got a lot of tag videos to do, and I've got my birthday book haul, and I've got my mid-month June book reviews, and then my end of the month book reviews, because that's coming up pretty soon already. And I guess I'm not doing a June TBR because at this point there's no point. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day or night. Happy reading. Bye.